I call the Honourable Philip Goff.
Mr Chairman, I want to pick up some of the issues that have been raised by national members. And I'll begin with Mark Mitchell, because he said, well, yeah, we don't cover children's playgrounds, we don't cover beaches, we don't cover recreational areas, but we had to start somewhere. Well, I'd have to say to Mark Mitchell, why would you start with the area where you already have the power to prevent the entry of anyone wearing a gang patch? One of the national members said, why does the school have to put up with patch-wearing members coming into our school? The answer is they don't. The answer is they don't. The school, the education system, the Minister of Education, any minister in charge of any department has the power right now to prevent gang members coming onto their premises. So I reiterate the advice given to the Select Committee by the officials was that this adds no new power to any power that already exists to exclude gang members wearing patches. Where you don't have the power, Mr Macleay, is where my colleague talked about. So you take your wife and kids to the beach and there's a guy there with a gang patch on, you can't do anything about that. You walk down the street of Rotorua, as I'm sure you do from time to time, and you'll find gang members walking down the street. There's no power to deal with them, but you're going to give the power to remove patch-wearing gang members from areas where they're already excluded. That is dumb. That is nonsense. That's why this is a powder-puff piece of legislation that has no meaning. And, you know, I know Richard Prosser moved his amendment, I think, in good faith. He listened to the arguments I put up in the Select Committee and said, here are all these anomalies. But, you know, and look, I'm sure Mr Sabin knew that when my colleague talked about putting lipstick on a pig, that's a well-known saying that no matter how much cosmetic change you make, that the animal underneath it is still the animal that it always was. This bill makes no difference. And I've got to say to Richard Prosser, despite his best efforts, you know, there are always going to be anomalies all the way down the patch. So we keep them off the ground, but now we can't keep them from the gate of the ground. We can't keep them from the beach. We can't keep them from the playground. You're going the wrong way about it. I want to actually give some praise to one of the suggestions that Mike Sabin made, and that was about addressing the reasons why people become members of gangs. And it is notable that the Black Power said earlier this year that John Key was the gang's best friend. John Key, everybody knows Rob Muldoon was, and he was open about that, former national Prime Minister that gave the gangs the house up in Hill Street, Ministry of Works houses for the gangs, that's the tradition. But this guy is saying that John Key is the gang's best friend because he said recruitment is skyrocketing under a national government because disaffected youth were drifting towards the gangs quicker than ever before because they had no jobs. Now, you know, if I was to do anything to try to stop a kid getting into a gang, putting that kid into an apprenticeship and giving him a job would be a bloody good start. That's the sort of positive action that would really make a difference. So I agree with Mike Sabin. We need to deal with the factors that push people
I'm sorry
towards
to interrupt
gangs.
the honourable member. The time has come for me to report progress.
I started so quietly, and then you irritated me.
It's Wednesday night.
The House is resumed. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker, the committee has considered the Prohibition of Gang Insignia in Government Premises Bill and reports progress. Mr Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The bill is set down for further consideration in committee next sitting day, and the House will stand adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Good evening, everybody.
It's Wednesday.